Round 13 of the AFL season, we had a little bonus game for us, and oh boy, did that bonus game really bring everything. But we get 7 games instead of the usual 6 with all the buys going on right now, and this round was absolutely insane. Another ballistic round of footy, a lot of off-the-field stuff, a lot of on-the-field stuff. I mean, between 3 thrilling comebacks, huge finals implications from some of the games that were played. And Donnie, they say that the most painful feeling in the world is getting stung by a bullet ant. Obviously, they have never been a St. Kilda Saints fan in their life because, I'm so sorry, guys. It really does have to hurt to be one. But of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by AFL correspondent Coach Donnie Hez. Coach, how are we feeling after this round of footy?
Oh man, if my tips were to save my life, I'd be 6 feet under right now because my tips went absolutely horrible. I know I tweeted out earlier today that my tips this week went absolute shithouse. It was wow. Just as soon as I thought no insanity could happen in 1 week of footy, man, one round can completely throw that all to hell, and it was glorious in many ways just to see the insanity that was this round of footy.
Well, I think you're okay on that one because I'd be in that same exact hole that you're getting thrown into. But of course, this is Fourth and Long Radio, the American destination and American voice for Australian football. And let's roll on into things. We started off with a fantastic game on paper and how it played out between Port Adelaide and Geelong. And what happened here is almost exactly what I was expecting and kind of what I was hoping for because here Geelong handles the Port Adelaide Power in a very thrilling game. You had both Jeremy Cameron and you had Tom Hawkins. They were doing everything for this team. They combined for 9 goals and they looked fantastic up and down the field. And what happened here is that you had the battle of 2 top 4 teams. And while Adelaide definitely had their moments in here, they took the lead a couple times in this, and one time in the fourth quarter too. What happened was kind of what I thought is that Geelong, they're legitimate. They're legitimate premiership contenders. Whereas I haven't had faith in Port Adelaide all year long. They haven't won a game against a top 8 team. And here, once again, another big test for them, and yet another test that they fail. So, Geelong, they prove themselves. The Cats look great, and they're really coming out of this week strong. Port Adelaide, they're starting to stumble right now while they're still in the top 4. It's probably not for long just because 2 of those top 4 teams were on bye weeks this week. And then one of the things I want to ask you, Donnie, is that would you consider Cameron and Hawkins the best forward duo in the league?
Right now it's hard to argue because they're both playing out of their minds right now, and I got to give it credit. Geelong did something that they hadn't done in a while, and that's went after a bye week and to go over to
Little
a
both
tough.
my tip on this one too, huh?
I well, this was one of those you just didn't know because you
Uh-huh.
also had Geelong bring in so many new players. I mean, Dangerfield comes back, Blitzovs comes back, Duncan comes back. They had so many ins, and sometimes so many ins can actually be a bad thing because it can kind of throw your team off a little bit. So I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was Scott just kind of let him just play after coming back from the bye or what, or it really I've seen this discussion being said is that maybe a little bit is I think Port Adelaide's midfield, we're finding out Travis Boak and Ollie Wines are great disposal getters, but in all the depth of strength of their midfield is maybe a little bit exaggerated a little bit because this poor team, they got exposed a little bit in the midfield. Yes, you've got some superstars in Dangerfield and Duncan and Selwood in the midfield for Geelong. So some people could say, well, there's your retort is they played a really good midfield. But in all, there should have been an advantage to Port Adelaide in the ruck because Laddams is a much better ruck than Blitzovs and Radagalia thrown together. And that's no shade to Radagalia or Blitzovs. It's just Adams is a taller, stronger, more known quantity in the ruck battle than Blitzovs and Radagalia. Radagalia is known for his athleticism, more of a forward type of guy. Blitzovs is that athlete that just happens to be tall. So I think that's kind of the argument there. This was really a game that was back and forth. There was tons of goal scoring. I mean, considering both teams had two 9-goal hauls. You had Hawkins and Cameron with 9, and Connor Rosie and Charlie Dixon with 9. So this was really a game where the defensive structure of Geelong kind of showed up late in the game, and Geelong just kind of ran over with it. So the questions are starting to come on Port now. Are they flat track bullies? Are they only a team that beat up on the lower teams in the rankings, which will be quite interesting because they play Gold Coast this week. So many people are kind of chalking that up to a win. And then you've got Sydney coming to town, and Sydney's going to be coming off the bye. So it'll be quite interesting to see these next 2 weeks for Port Adelaide, how they respond, because you play an up-and-coming Gold Coast team that I think kind of underperformed this week.
Yeah.
And it should be a win at home. And then you have Sydney coming to town. So it'd be quite an interesting little week for Port. But all in all, hats off to Geelong. I mean, they kind of have rebounded from some of the stumbles early in the year. They've won their last 5 in a row. They have a big matchup this week, which is probably the marquee game of the entire round coming up this week. So I'm really looking forward to it. But hats off to the Cats on this big win over in Adelaide.
The next game, Donnie, is one. I mean, you want to just take it away here. Sydney and Hawthorn. Man, well, it's because, in all fairness, we got a little bit of an angry comment from one particular listener on YouTube saying that we talk too much trash about Hawthorn. My rebuttal, they deserve it 90% of the time, so I really don't know what to tell you there. But, yeah, former Swan Tom Mitchell, he kind of led the way against Sydney here. Hawthorn, huge upset. He finishes with a goal and 34 disposals. And then a brand new draftee, 9 days after being drafted, this guy, Jai Newcomb, sets a VFL AFL record for most tackles in a debut with 14. So that man, I mean, Hawthorn, you've already pat yourself on the back for that draft pick because it already landed. It's another one of these slow. It's almost it's almost patented at this point. The slow Sydney start that just kind of dooms them. And after your breakdown of this, does this game say more about Sydney or does it say more about Hawthorn?
How to address this? I don't know if this was a super bad start by Sydney. I just think Hawthorn just had the right game plan. Like if you really look at this game, it was competitive for most of it until around the 10-minute mark of the second quarter. That's when things started to slide. And I've said this a couple of times, and I mean this. This Sydney Swans team looked absolutely gassed halfway through the second quarter, and I didn't want to say it out loud, but I knew this game was over when they started to kind of slip out of the double-digit deficit after they got past about 3 or 4 goals. Sydney just never really could get over the hump. Like early in the third quarter, they crawled it back to within, I think it was like 14 or something, but could never really get there. And in the fourth quarter, Hawthorn kind of put it on them, as you could see the weariness and the tired legs kind of coming on them. But I mean, I want to address this, and I hope I don't irk off a few of my Sydney Swans brethren. The whinging about refereeing, I completely understand, because one of the biggest stats that almost all of them went to was the free kick count. Everybody went to the free kick count. I mean, it was not even close. It was 26-10 was the free kick count. Okay. I don't think this is a great indicator that Sydney was a bad team. But I do say this: Sydney was undisciplined at times. A few of the free kicks that everybody's complaining about, honestly, they were the correct call. Not all of them. I will give them a little bit of credit. There were several that should have been called. They were not called. I'm not going to go as far as some of them has. That's just not me. Sydney didn't deserve to win this game. They just did not have the overall quality that they usually did. Like I said, they looked tired. This bye week coming up for Sydney, I've said it to numerous people, I think is a blessing, because they need the rest. They look absolutely exhausted. They played a fresh as a daisy Hawthorn Hawks team, and it showed. Hawthorn was on the footy all the time. Sydney was second to the ball most of the game. There is no discussion about that. If you legitimately watch this game, Hawthorn was the stronger, fresher team, period.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the free kick count was. And again, I understand 26-10. It's something all of them are going to point to. But I'm sorry. Sydney did not play well. They did not deserve this game, to win this game. Do I think that this is going to, again, kind of like the loss to Gold Coast, be beaten over Sydney's head? Is they're the weakest team. They're going to get knocked out. And I said it numerous times. I said, if they get knocked out, they get knocked out. I'm not going to complain, because at the start of the year, I said to everybody, I'm not sure if this is a finals team. I'm not. I'm not going to sit here and get bent out of shape over this. Okay. Sydney, I think, can still make the finals. They've got a tough 3-game set coming back from the bye. There's no argument about that. If I remember correctly, they have, I'll run it with you real quickly here, for those: Port Adelaide, and then if I remember correctly, it is the West Coast Eagles, but that one is at home. That one is at home at the SCG, and the Western Bulldogs, if I remember the fourth one. Yep, the Western Bulldogs. That is their first 3 games back from the bye. That is a murderer's row, 3 games back. But I'm going to say this now. With the way Port played against Geelong, that's a winnable game for Sydney if they come with the right energy.
Yes.
But that's not an easy game. West Coast playing on the road. Again, a winnable game, maybe. I want to see what West Coast form is like going into that game. The Western Bulldogs will be in Melbourne. It sounds like there will be games in Victoria this upcoming week. Whether fans will be back or not, that's still kind of up for debate. That's a tough 3, but if I remember correctly, after that it gets a little bit easier for the Swans after that. We won't go too much into that. That's getting Swan Central. Sorry, everybody on that one. Now, in all, congratulations, Hawks. You guys deserve to get that win. I'm not going to sit here and be a bent out of shape Swans fan. You earned that. Congratulations. I hope they get a few more wins, because this is far too good a footy club to be as low as they are. But unfortunately, sometimes it has to happen.
Yeah. Now, with the next game, let's talk about. Can we give the award for stinker of the round between Fremantle and Gold Coast, because I really just did not enjoy myself trying to sit through this game. Whether it was trying to sit through, at least trying to watch the game, or if I'm going to just the highlights that the AFL puts out and trying to watch that, there's a little bit of pain in there. This is just not that great of a game of footy. I'm sorry, you Freo fans. I'm sorry. I guess we'll just give it now, Donnie. The fan count for Gold Coast is going to take a hit this week. It was seeing record highs before the bye. Oh, it's going to drop down to 22. 22 this round, because it was a loss to a struggling team, and there was a loss that just was ugly. But for at least, let's talk positives here, because I'd like to be positive as possible. For the first time in, I can't tell you how long, the Fremantle Dockers actually kick more goals than they do behinds. And this was without Fife. So, I guess take that as you will. I'll let you make the connections there. I might not say it, because I probably get hate mail. A lot of hate mail sent by these Freo fans, because I know you love Fife, and I love him too. But it was really good to see that, at least. I mean, 11-10, obviously not that great of accuracy, but improvements Fremantle. So good for you guys. This was really a pretty close game throughout, with the Dockers pulling away late. And the question here is, does a win like this give Freo, I guess, a little bit of hope for the future, or is this just one of those games where you're not really going to remember in a couple weeks' time?
This is what I would call the gutsy win. This is the win where you go in and it's not going to be about flash. It's purely going to be work, effort, and hustle. I mean, that's just the easiest way to say it. I mean, you lose Fife, you lose Cox. Thankfully, Darcy did play in this game, and I think he really made a massive impact, because he's such a good ruckman, and I really think he kind of helped this Freo team. I mean, Freo's still got a lot of talent, but I think a lot of people kind of see Fife is kind of the linchpin of this team, but I'm starting to really think that linchpin is more of Brayshaw and Mundy, because they both had spectacular games. They looked absolutely outstanding. It was great to see the man, the myth, the legend, Matty Rowell back in a Gold Coast Suns uniform. Wasn't a spectacular performance, but it's first game back, so we won't hit the kid any more than he's already probably taken. But this was a game that was all guts. I mean, this was a pure effort win. It wasn't flashy. I mean, in prototypical fashion, Frio decides that they need to kick almost as many goals as they do behind. I don't know what it. Really don't know what it is. I think they need to try to find a better goal kicking coach, because it's insane. They could be blowing some teams out of the water if they could kick straight a little bit. And I don't want to contradict you, but I Fife is a great player. I think Fife's biggest issue is that Fife does everything great except set shot goal kicking. Like, if you just take him freelancing where the ball's free and he's just got to take it and snap it on goal, he's absolutely spectacular.
Is it the pressure that you think gets him, or do you think she's better with movement?
I don't know. It's kind of one of those where maybe sometimes it's just a confidence thing. I think this season has just been that he started off not being real accurate, and I think it's kind of shook him a little bit when it comes to his set shotting. But we'll see. I mean, it really kind of is up in the air. But for them to get this win again, it's not exactly a world beater. I mean, we're not talking Frio beating the Western Bulldogs or the Geelong Cats or Brisbane or Melbourne. I mean, this is the Gold Coast Suns. All due respect, Suns fan. I mean, I think you have an up-and-coming team, but this is one of those that, as a Frio Dockers fan, you just want to get the win, get your 4 points, get some confidence into the guys that are still playing, and you move on to the next week. So this is one of those, you kind of put the tiny feather in your cap, but you don't put a ton into it. This is the gutsy win that you need sometimes if you want to try to compete for finals.
Now, let's get on to some of the most exciting part of the round, because the next 3 games were all 3 pretty large comebacks. 2 of them resulted in wins for the comebacking team. One of them resulted in the draw, but we'll get that, unfortunately, in the moment. The first game of these 3 comeback games, though, was St. Kilda in Adelaide, and these Crows, man, sometimes they just seem dead, and sometimes they just come out of nowhere and hit you with everything they got. And one of the few times where if you need a goal kicker, to win you the game if you're Adelaide, it wasn't Big Tex doing it. This time it was Riley Thilthorpe, as he leads a huge comeback for the Crows. He boots one with just a minute to go. This Crows team was down about 36 at one point. And man, this was one hell of a... They just kind of crawled and scrapped and just fought their way back into this game. And slowly but surely, you start to see it about in the third quarter when they started to kind of turn the tide of the game. It wasn't this huge comeback that all happened at once. It was these chip goals. It was a goal. It was a behind. You know, it was there was a bit of time in that game where nothing really was changing. Then they got the goals. And St. Kilda kind of got back, and then Adelaide really just cemented it home there at the end. Thilthorpe puts in 3 on this one with that, like I said, the big game winner there right at the end of the game. And Adelaide, fantastic win here. Way to crawl back. And although I don't think they're going to make the finals this year, I think they still build to a solid future, and they're going to be a good team down the road, especially if Thilthorpe continues to do stuff like this. If you're able to keep Taylor Walker, and if you're able to kind of build around them and maybe put that defense a little more, this is going to be a really good team. Not going to happen this year, but it's really a shame to see what St. Kilda did last year and what they've done on the back of that this year.
Oh man, a tale of 2 completely different seasons, because I think a lot of people applauded St. Kilda for bringing in experienced veteran players into this team last year. Got them into the finals, got them a finals win. Yes, they lost in the second round, but it was they were there. And this year, it's almost kind of been the stick that you proverbial have beaten over the head with this team, because everybody has questioned Brad Hill was this marvel last year because he did so much, and this year a few bad efforts by Brad Hill, and literally every week they roll up the newspaper and they smack him in the back of the head with it. And it's almost kind of odd this year the way St. Kilda has. I mean, the discussion over this team is completely flipped on its head in one season.
Mm-hmm.
And this was another one of those games where it shows you cannot lay off a team at all. Because I mean, I don't know if you saw Adelaide did not score at all until 4 minutes into the second quarter. They were 0-0 after the first quarter, and at the half they were down 30 points. So this is an amazing comeback. Adelaide scored the last 7 goals of the game, including Riley Philthorpe's winner, which was almost a European soccer like over the head kick that went through, that you got to give the young rookie player a lot of kudos for having the guts to be able to do it and put it through. But this Adelaide team, again, they just they're scrappy. They may not be the most technically gifted team. They may not be the most tactically gifted, but they just are scrappy. They just do not give up. And St. Kilda just kind of looked like halfway through that fourth quarter when, I mean, it was 2 points. They just did not have enough to hold back. You knew eventually Adelaide would get it. And when Adelaide kicked that goal with a minute left, there was nothing left in the tank. I mean, St. Kilda was spent. So this is an all-out effort by the Crows, but you got to feel for the St. Kilda Saint fans, because this is, again, another game, a chance to win, and the ending doesn't go your way, and it just really just does not get any better. And unfortunately, this season, I mean, you kind of have to wrap it up, with a nice little bow and throw it into the trash can, because, I mean, there's no way St. Kilda should make the finals. I mean, even going to the ladder right now, they're 13th place. They are 8 points out of the finals right now, with 4 teams ahead of them with either superior points or superior percentage. So this is, I mean, they're going to have to go on one mighty roll to end this season, going into round 14 to make the finals. I don't see it happening unless they get a lot of gifts starting in round 15, where they've got to take down Richmond.
Oh, that's one hell of a test. But given what we saw go down this week, man, I don't even want to say anything about that game, because I'll probably say the exact opposite of what's going to happen given the results that we've been seeing, because I just don't know what to expect at this point. I hate tipping. This is my least favorite sport to tip. It's such a pain.
You'd never think that a game with what you would think would be so many advantages to one team would totally find a way to go in the exact opposite way than you expect.
Are you talking about this game, or are you talking about our next game, Donnie, between GWS and North Melbourne? Because, okay. So 2 things here. As a GWS fan, I would like to get through this game as quick as possible and not even talk about it, because thank God it wasn't lost, but a draw against this team is not good. But as a fan of the AFL, this was objectively a really good and a really, really exciting game of footy, because this is almost like the games that you love to watch. It's almost one of those perfect footy games, because this really had everything in them. Another huge comeback, down nearly 30 at one point. Daniel Lloyd put up 2 on the day. He puts up 1 with about a minute to go, a few minutes ago in this one, and he barely misses that last kick. That one hurt, Don. I really thought that was going through for about half a second. Then my heart dropped, and I realized that they were going to tie to the freaking Roos, man. We're going tied to the first team in the league, but it's okay. It's okay, because you still get the 2 points. You're still not totally out of the finals contention. It's still there, at least mathematically. It's still there. So what do you think about this game, and what does this mean for GWS's chances at making the finals?
Well, this definitely throws a little bit of a little bit of an odd trinket to this season because now GBWS has that oddball 2 points.
Of course,
So,
my team had to be the ones ruining it, right, with the draw.
so here's the thing though, is it could almost be somewhat of a blessing because you
Really?
get 2 points instead of
All right, but,
believe
all
it or
right, all
not.
right. Talk me up. Talk me off the cliff here.
Okay,
Let's hear the
so
positive.
right now you're 6 points back.
Yeah.
Okay, but again, Richmond, West Coast, Sydney, Port Adelaide are right there, so you still got a shot.
Hmm.
Um, the biggest thing here is that they're gonna have to make sure they win games, and just make sure that you're within that half a game of eighth place. Because then, if you get into a situation where eighth place loses and you win, you don't have to worry about percentages because now
Mm,
you're 2 points ahead of them
good
because of
point.
this. But it does throw you off a tiny bit because now you're a game and a half back instead of 2 games. So
Hmm.
it is a little odd because right now you're 22 points, 2 points behind Fremantle, who's in 20, who has 24. Your percentage is better than theirs, but again, you got to win and hope Frio loses before you jump over them just because of the points thing. So we'll kind of hypothetical here.
Yeah.
If Richmond were to lose their next game and GWS wins, okay, now you're only 2 points back of Richmond. So Richmond can't mess up because if Richmond loses and you win, you jump over them. You don't have to worry about percentages now. Because of that oddball 2 points, every win now could jump you places instead of you getting into a tiebreaker and having to look at percentage to be able to get in.
I do
So
like
this is kind of an oddball little thing where sometimes a draw is actually good because it gives you that little 2 extra points to play with that you can jump teams that are tied
that. Hmm.
with the 4 8 12 so on and so point system that this 2 points sometimes can potentially get you into the finals. Now
Thanks for
you're
the
a game and a half
positivity.
you're a game and a half backs, which means you still have 2 games that you got to win. You got to
Hmm.
hope they at least lose one to be able to make up that point differential. You're looking at it right now is that Richmond is 6 points ahead of you. But then the problem is you run into is West Coast, Sydney, Port Adelaide, and Brisbane are all 10 points ahead of you.
Hmm.
So you're basically 3 games behind them. So with only, I mean, you're looking at it. GWS has played 12 games, so they're going to catch up to like Richmond, West Coast, Sydney, Port Adelaide, all are at except Port.
Hmm.
3 of those 4 are at 13 games. So you could potentially you win this week, you could potentially cut that down from 10 down to 6. Okay, and then with Richmond, you could cut it down to 2 if you win this week. Which then meaning if Richmond drops one and you win, you jump Richmond and you're in the finals. So again, it's the oddball twist to it. It's not a given that you have a chance, but it
Hmm.
does throw a little bit of that weird because you do have that 2 odd points instead of 4.
And it's a game like this where I might sound like American talking out my rear end with this one, but I am a firm believer, Donnie, in overtime that lets you win games. I hate ties. Ties are the dumbest thing in sports. I want a winner. I love these like sports like hockey. If you're in the regular season, if you have overtime, if you're tied after overtime, you go into a shootout until someone wins. In basketball, you play overtime periods until someone wins. But in football, you have an overtime period of 10 minutes. But if you tie at the end of that, it's a tied game. I really think it's stupid. If we can put 5 minute periods incrementally, 5 minute periods into this game where almost like NBA playoffs where you have like an extra 5 minutes. Whoever is leading once that is done wins, or if you're still tied, you go into another 5. I think that's something that they should implement. There's probably a lot of true-hearted Australian football fans that are going to hate me for this, but I really just hate ties, and I think this is something that the AFL might, in my opinion, they should look at doing.
I think there's growing call for it, which is really funny because the draw is such a unique thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I saw this statistic somewhere, they said that your GWS Giants have 3 of the last 5 draws in the last 3 or 4 years, or whatever it
Oh,
is.
that's fun. That's a great stat. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Coming. I thought it was hilarious, but Yeah, I could see why. My only thing that you may get a little bit of pushback from the players because it's more wear and tear on the players
Mm-hmm.
for the overtimes, where, like I said, there's a lot of there may be some red tape you're going to have to go through. I don't mind the draw because I think if a team can get 2 points out of a game because they can get a draw, I don't mind it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also watch European football and soccer for the American fan. So I don't mind the draw because I'm used to it. And I remember I remember hockey when there were ties. And I don't mind it because sometimes a team doesn't deserve to lose. I don't mind the draw. So
That's
for
kind of why
me,
I like hockey though, because if you so hockey operates on a 2 point system. So if you win the game, you get two; lose, you get zero. But if it goes into overtime and you lose, you get one. So in this case, I would like the overtime. The overtime winner gets 4 points, but the loser still gets two. I think hockey did a great thing with that sort of point compromise.
it'd be interesting. I think if I heard right, there have been discussions that they say that some many fans don't like the draw, but I don't know. Again,
I'm
Aussie
there with it.
rules Aussie rules fans are kind of sticklers for their tradition sometimes.
Damn right they are. They're worse than baseball fans over here.
Whether the draw disappears anytime soon, we'll have to see. But it was very unique to see that because
Mhm.
I remember watching it. And full disclosure on this is I sometimes I don't stay up for all the games. I watch them on replay the next day.
Unbelievable, Donnie. It's not like I do the thing for every game. I'm sorry, I like sleep, guys.
Yeah,
It's
I
on
mean,
at 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock here. I'm
no, but
snoozing.
the hilarious thing is that I know I cannot check social media because if I go on social media I get spoilers.
Yep.
Ross knows my wrath sometimes. If yeah I get
Oh yeah,
spoilers
I've heard
and I
it.
don't
I'm
like them.
still a rookie when it comes to the
But the
spoilers.
funniest part about it is that this one got a spoiler and I didn't even realize it until it was too late and I was like no, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to watch this because originally I wasn't planning on watching the whole game. I was just planning on watching the highlights. I thought GWS should win this relatively easy.
You
They've
think?
got DeBoer coming back. They've
Mm-hmm.
got some of the guys coming back. Toby
Mm-hmm.
Green was supposed to be back, so I thought this was relatively. All of a sudden, I'm on social media. Full disclosure, on social media, and Ross tweeted something from the fourth and long saying, "Well, at least a draw isn't a loss," or something to that. I don't know what
Yeah.
tweet it was. And somebody replied back and said, "Yeah, that game really deserved a draw." And I was like, "What? What? The game was a draw." Like I wasn't even paying attention. I wasn't even thinking. I'm like, "Oh my god, the game was a draw." So I turned it on. I turned it on. I wanted to watch the highlights because it was like, "There's no way this turned a draw.
Mm-hmm.
No way." I'm watching. I'm like, okay, how did this, and like as I'm watching the game I'm like, okay, North Melbourne's really kind of handing it to GWS. What And then the comeback happened. I was like, wow, it really was a draw. That
It
was
really was.
it was quite an interesting game, but it kind of shows you the fickle nature sometimes of footy. But I had to laugh at myself on that as I actually spoiled myself because I went on social media to look for something and I saw that tweet and I'm like, oh, come on.
Oh, that's gold. Oh, yeah, no, social media is tough when it comes to that. But the next game, yeah,
Cannot look
no,
at Twitter.
no, you gotta delete that app straight up. With
Well,
the
it's not delete. You just can't open it or look at it.
well, I had to delete it because I get too tempted to open it, man. I gotta look at. I'm on
I
for this show. I'm on Twitter like 4 or 5 hours a day. I hate it, but I'm so I hate this app. I hate this app.
hmm,
It's all about the impressions, though, Donnie. I need these sweet.
I
Speaking of
can
Twitter, though, go
understand.
follow us at Fourth on Radio.
Definitely an interesting follow for sure.
Also, Coach Hess 40. Go follow that one too, because also while you're at it, follow USAFL 1997. So
Hmm.
hit all those and have a good time with yourself.
Had some interesting tweets on the USAFL. They had their
They've had some good.
most serene looking training facilities because the DC Eagles put out a picture of their training and
I'm a
in the
fan
background is the
of the Denver
Washington
one the
Mountain.
most. I think. Oh,
Yeah, the
those
mountains in the
mountains
back.
in the back. Oh, it's beautiful.
So
Uh,
we really
it's,
can't do anything because we're like halfway in the city. We're like
no,
halfway in the city for ours. It's trees and an amphitheater. So
nice trees,
it's not.
Donnie. You're looking good over there.
I mean, I knew if we could find a way to get the Des Moines, the Iowa the state capital,
Uh-huh.
but we really can't. Not where we're at. There's no clear view of it, so it's not exactly a pristine picture. We could probably fudge something, but I don't like doing that type of
No,
thing. So.
it's fun to be real.
Hmm.
Speaking of real, though, let's talk about a game that was real exciting, and that was this West Coast versus Richmond game. Bad tip, man. Why do I ever doubt the Eagles and Optus? Why would I ever do that to myself? I am. Because what happened? We had about 55,000 people packed into Optus, screaming loud as hell, watching their Eagles scrape together a huge comeback win against the mighty Tigers. And none other than Josh Kennedy was the hero of this game. He gets 4 goals, and with a minute left, I think it's like a minute 6, he kicks this sharp angle goal that, oh boy, it just hits that perfect curve in. And oh boy, that was one of the loudest crowd noises I've ever heard, at least from Optus, because that was absolutely fantastic. But this is a game, when we see Richmond lose, what I've been kind of seeing, Donnie, is that when Richmond loses, they lose to a team that plays Richmond style of football, because it really just looked like the Eagles outpace, they outpressure. Oh man, Liam Ryan was putting on the pressure, man. No one could get away from that guy. He's like this little fly that keeps on landing on you, man. And you can't even hit him. You can't even hit him away either. He's just always there, and he just never stops bothering you. He always scores goals, and he always picks up intercepts with defense, and he's just right there. He's so much fun to watch. But they finish the fourth quarter scoring 4 straight to come from behind. They get a big win here. And does the winner of this game, so in this case West Coast, do they solidify themselves as a finals team with this?
Oh man, this Eagles team again. This Jekyll and Hyde type of stuff is really getting bothersome because I think the reason that
Bothersome for the tipping.
And that's kind of it because as we both kind of stated in last week's pod, was we had come off the game where the Tigers had beat Essendon. They looked really really good, and here's where we all say here we go. The Tiger train is on the rails now. It's just gonna run over people. And I think this game really kind of showed that on the right day, the right team can still beat Richmond. Richmond is still susceptible to lose. And I don't want to kind of contradict you here, but this is the Eagles game style that I've said numerous times. They are perfectly built to beat Richmond because they are a
Yeah.
kick mark team. They were a little more pressure than normal,
Mm-hmm.
weren't Richmond pressure because their biggest thing is they like to
Yeah.
kick mark and use their height because when you have Oscar Allen, Jack Darling, and Josh Kennedy up front,
Hey,
you are
Donnie, let's have some fun. If we're just talking height, I mean, Mason Cox is entering a contract, or he's hasn't signed a new contract yet. Let's send Mason Cox over to the Eagles. Just the Australian drafts, man, straight up.
I don't think unfortunately I don't think
No,
he
it's
would
just
fit with this West Coast Eagles
100%
team.
just joking, going with the height. That would never happen. But shoot,
It'd be interesting it'd
fun.
be interesting to see, but just there's so much height and they use it so well and they
Mm-hmm.
spread defenses out and they force you to play man on man with. I mean, Josh Kennedy can lead anywhere. He's so good at leading. Jack Darling is an athletic animal, and Oscar Allen can literally play on anywhere in the field. This is a team when they're going, they're hard to stop. And the best part is, I think the reason they really won is because they dominated in the ruck battle. Nick Nat Nui went absolutely bat crazy in this game. I mean, he literally he took this challenge of Marbio Chol and he just kind of destroyed him. And when you have first to the footy, when the West Coast lets their mids and their team get the footy first, they tend to dominate. And Richmond really had so much trouble keeping West Coast from getting into their 50. Now, Richmond they'll get their pressure, they'll get their points.
Mm-hmm.
But the best part is when Shannon Hearn and Ron and Barras and that back line stand up. They're very difficult to score on, and that kind of showed. This is the West Coast Eagles team that everybody says they're a flag contender when they play like this. Their problem is when they go on the road, they don't. And that's kind of the biggest issue that we see is that I'm still kind of I'm going to have you at arm's length here a little bit, West Coast. This is a great performance. This is a big win. And it almost kind of heaps more pressure on Richmond because normally Richmond, after the bye, as we kind of said, they get on a roll, and this is when they start to absolutely obliterate teams,
Mm-hmm.
and they go into the finals hotter than a firecracker. You can't stop them, and they run themselves all the way to a premiership. Well, this is a stumble that really at this point is at the worst possible time because you keep Frio, you keep GWS, you keep Essendon still in the hunt for finals. You can't afford that because if Richmond wants to make a finals run,
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to be in eighth or
No.
seventh because it means you're on the road the entire finals. And Richmond, as we've seen, doesn't travel as well. And I don't know. I think you saw this tweet. Did you see the tweet about how Richmond has had to travel to their last 4 games?
Yeah, also, I hate, and that's a really lame excuse considering they were complaining about driving 10 minutes down the road.
And uh, Richmond fans that are listening to this, I understand, okay, but this one just does not go over well
No.
with anybody that has a memory longer than about a week, if I'm being honest with you. Because what Dimmer Hardwick did 2 weeks ago totally makes any kind of complaint about their travel obsolete. If you're going to complain about going 6 kilometers to Marvel Stadium before all the COVID stuff happened, this is kind of one of those where nobody's going to feel sorry for you when you fly to Perth, fly back to Sydney. And I want to hear explanations because I've heard some people say that the reason they couldn't stay in WA was the health protocols. I understand that. But even still, you had a full week to rest and then another flyback for a game. I'm not seeing your complaint here, considering that's the same thing that interstate clubs do, especially Perth teams do, every other week.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have no leg to stand on, especially some of the Victorian clubs. You can't complain about travel. You really can't because you don't have the travel issues that the interstate teams do,
Yeah.
especially the Perth teams. Perth is a long trip. There's no argument there. You will not, anybody that can look at a map will know Perth is the biggest pain for the entire competition because it is so far out there. At least with the South Adelaide team, with the South Australian teams, the New South Wales and Queensland, it's at least somewhat closer. Perth is a way out there. So I think I'm really really sorry, Richmond fans, but you're not going to get any any sympathy from any interstate club fans or even some of the other
Mm-hmm.
Vic fans because with all of the games that you normally play in the MCG, I really don't want to hear the complaining. You didn't play the best game you possibly could. You got nipped. I don't think it was because you're tired. I just think West Coast outplayed you in this
Mm-hmm.
game at really critical points. I didn't see a tired Richmond team. I didn't.
Also, the thing here is that if you're a team that's been really damn good, you win 3 straight premierships, and then you kind of start to fall off, or you look for excuses and stuff like that, no one's really going to feel bad for you because they just want you out there. They want to see you fall so we can get a new team in and probably their team in that they're a member of. So we'll just see how that goes for Richmond. I'm really curious to see what they're able to do next round, how they're able to pick things up. But the last game of the round was one that I think there was one man in the world that saw this game happen, that saw this result happening, Donnie, and that is Nathan Buckley. He's the only person that could have seen this coming because in his last game with Collingwood, with the team earlier this week, announcing that this is going to be his last one with the team, Collingwood beats Melbourne. They beat the best team, one of the worst teams in the league, beats one of the best teams in the league, and it wasn't barely. They won by 17 here. They won by almost 3 goals here. It. I have no words for how the hell this game even happened. I was watching and I was just blown away. And then kind of what it looks like though is something you pointed out, Donnie, last round, is that when the Pies are not really trying. I don't want to say not trying, but when there's not like a specific thing they're going for, when you go, hey guys, let's just go out and see what we can do and go play some footy. When they're playing loose and when they're just kind of free balling it almost, they're a solid team. Obviously, I mean, if you beat Melbourne, you're a real good team. So, is that what they're going to have to do from here on out, and maybe just change the culture of that team? And hey, we're still going to love how good we play defense, but hey, let's go try to play some footy because apparently it's been working for them. The things here, though, is that I want to ask you if Melbourne is still the favorites for the premiership, if that's now Brisbane, or since maybe it's Geelong now. Who's the real favorite standing after this round?
Oh man, if I'm Nathan Buckley, you almost want to pull all the players in the door, shut the door, and then scream, "Where the heck has this been for the last 6 weeks?" No, all due respect, and we'll discuss this a little bit more
Yeah.
after. There's a lot of emotion going into this game. Just no doubt about it. The game being at the SCG, I think, kind of dampened it a tiny bit, just because of where it was with everything that was going on. Again, we'll discuss specifically, and most of that are watching do know. Um, I watched this game in almost utter fascination because this was the Collingwood team I kind of expected at the start of the year. A very talented, skillful team that can do anything they want when they want to because of some of the guys that they have. When you have Pendlebury, you have Sidebottom, you have Darcy Moore, you have Crisp, you have Jamie Elliott, you've got Jordan DeGoey, Braden Maynard, Brody Machek. You've got some stars. You've got
Mm-hmm.
a lot of really, really good footy players on your list that can do a lot of very good things for your footy club anytime they want to. But unfortunately, it just has not been there. And I'm almost kind of one of those Buckley stepping down might have been the best thing for the club because all the pressure's off now.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's expecting this club to make the finals. Nobody's expecting this club to do anything. And ever since that pressure's really been taken off over the last 2 weeks, this is the Collingwood team we expected at the start of the year. This was the Collingwood team I expected to be in ninth, 10th, or 11th place, fighting for finals, probably not making it, but fighting for finals because they have a good squad. So I don't know. There is part of me, maybe it's the coach in me, that just goes, "Where the heck was this? Where was this effort? Where was this tackling
Where is
pressure?"
Swinka?
I
Winka
mean,
save my job.
they just literally out tackled everywhere
Mm-hmm.
the Melbourne Demons. And this is a Melbourne Demons team that it was personified as one of the best teams in the entire league. To address your second question, I have no earthly idea who the favorite is because this again is this weird result that do we take it as this was Collingwood playing on pure emotion. They were on another level. Melbourne wasn't expecting it. That's why Melbourne lost, but Melbourne's still the best team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's part of me that goes, well, Geelong is starting to fire on all cylinders now. Jeremy Cameron, Hawkins, Rowan, that forward line's really going. Dangerfield's back now.
Yeah.
You still have Guthrie still to come into this Geelong team. They're soon going to be 100% healthy, which they really haven't been all of this year. So are the Cats now the favorite? Brisbane, will they learn from that result against Melbourne and get a little better to the point where maybe they become it because they have that three-headed monster up forward, a really good defense, and a midfield that is going to get stronger with Lachie Neale getting healthier and healthier? So right now, I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna hedge my bets here on this one because I'm gonna say Melbourne is still the favorite because I'm gonna play off the I think this was emotion, this was playing for Bucks,
Mm-hmm.
this was wanting to win to send him out on a positive note, which I've seen way too many times that a coach everybody knows is gonna leave ends out winning. North Melbourne did it with Chris Scott with the Scott brother that was coaching them.
Yeah.
He said he was going to step down. Next game, the last game before he stepped down, they win. This happens all the time. It's the new coach slash coach leaving season bump. I don't know what it is. It's the most oddball thing in sport, and it's both awesome and the most mind-numbing thing ever. That you're like a team that is so bad to get their coach fired, but you win the last game that coach coaches is really kind of this weird dichotomy. Um, Melbourne's my number one, but I'm still there's still this week. I think is going to be a tester for two teams, the Western Bulldogs and the
Mm-hmm.
Geelong Cats,
Yep.
considering they play each other. I think that one's really going to say who's next in line to potentially push Melbourne,
Mm-hmm.
considering both have lost to Melbourne. Now Geelong played Melbourne early in the year. They didn't have Dangerfield. They were still kind of still in a little bit of state of flux. The Western Bulldogs really, I think they were top notch, except for they had lost Chalor. So you do have some arguments of why maybe the Demons won those games because they had a few stars that weren't there that could have affected the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I say the Demons are still my favorite, but I'm keeping a very close eye on the next three, which is the Western Bulldogs, Geelong Cats, and Brisbane Lions.
Oh, you bet. Oh man, I that's going too far around recap, and this round just made me doubt every single thing that I thought I knew about this sport because there really is just no telling. I think there's any given Sunday in football, but I think that saying holds a lot more weight when it comes to Australian football because I really just do not know any single week, and so. But there's one thing, Donnie, it sure as hell does make this game a whole lot of fun to watch. But some news to just kind of go off of that. Of course, Nathan Buckley, like we just said, he's going to be he's done with Collingwood. Probably, I'm going to guess he's just going to be done with footy for at least this season. I could easily see him going to a club. Look at it though, 218 games, 117 wins, and he was 2018 AFL-CA Coach of the Year. Buckley was a really solid guy for this team, and even if you didn't like him as a coach, you at least had to respect him. Solid player. And then also, his loyalty was really just unmatched by almost anyone. He was with his Collingwood team when they were awful, when they were great, when they were awful again. And I've never really doubted his commitment to this team. He's always been a Collingwood guy, and it's going to be weird seeing that organization without Buckley at the helm.
It's really interesting because he was such a great for Collingwood, and he was the successor to Malthouse after him. He was the coach in waiting. We started to see that term come in big time now. Even over here in the States, is that coach in waiting, that first assistant coach that as soon as the head coach retires, he's the next in line.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Buckley has just been an incredible coach because not only was he a great player, but he was one of the few that could transition from great player to really good coach.
Mm-hmm.
He really helped Collingwood kind of revamp after a few kind of mediocre years after their really good seasons where they won a flag. So for Buckley, this it was a great performance, but I think the end of his coaching career is just going to be mired just because of so many things, not only on the field but off the field, that happened at the same time.
I think that's tragic.
Um,
I really hope people don't remember him for this last year.
and unfortunately, sometimes it's the way you go out. It's the
Right.
last thing we see. I don't know. Like I have seen these rumors that there's two or three teams that many people say if a coaching position comes open, Buckley should be their first phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just me, but I agree with what you said. I think he's such a Collingwood guy that I think he's done. Like I don't
Yeah.
think he's going to come back into coaching. I think he's done. I think he coached the one team he wanted to coach. He coached him as long as he felt he was going to be helpful to the organization. He is walking away because he
Mm-hmm.
feels it's the best for the club. And I honestly, I don't see him putting donning another polo and hopping in another coach's box because I don't know if he could coach against Collingwood and feel that he's still being loyal to the club that did so
Right.
much for him. Like
Would love to
I
see him
know,
take some sort of maybe like office role with Collingwood. Hell, I mean they're having all this president issues. Just make him the president.
unfortunately, it's not that simple.
No,
If you
I know.
ask,
I'm
if you
oversimplifying
ask,
the hell out of it.
exactly. Unfortunately, if
Yeah.
I think if you ask some members, I don't think they would be too. I don't think they would think that was too far fetched an idea, but unfortunately, it is not that simple.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. As I tweeted to you when this news came down, I said it happened a little bit earlier than I expected, but it
It
happened.
did.
That Bucks is walking away, and I said I think Bucks was going to make the decision, not the board. And I stood at the start of the season, or at least when all of the drama started happening. I said Bucks is going to make this decision, not the board. I said the
Mhm.
board is not going to tell him when he's done. He's going to walk away. He loves the club too much to do it, and he did it. It is kind of odd that it is in the middle of the year. I thought he would at least get to the end of the year and then step away. He wouldn't resign.
Mhm.
So he's jumping the gun a little bit on me, but I feel a little bit of a weird sense of Nostradamus for calling
Mm.
that one. And I knew he would be the one that would end his time, but unfortunately, it was probably may not have been completely on his terms. All due respect to Nathan Buckley, an incredible player, an incredible teacher. I hope he still stays in footy in some way, but I think he's gonna take the rest of this season. He's gonna just decompress completely, and then maybe just maybe he'll find his way back into footy, maybe in a lower level capacity. I'd love to see him maybe jump in back into Collingwood if he's going to coach and maybe become like a staffer for the VFL,
Mhm.
or maybe even getting into recruiting. It'd be interesting to see him as a scout. I think he's got an incredible footy mind.
Mhm.
I think if Collingwood want to keep him around, um, that be another path to be able to stay with the club that he so dearly loves. Let's join into this too. I don't know how much you've dove into this. Have you heard about Carlton's review?
I've been trying to pay attention, but obviously, I really just don't know the ins and outs, at least the front office aspect and the organizational aspect of the game. So, Donnie, would you like to break us down with that one?
Well, this one's kind of it depends on who you talk to. There have been several different news outlets that have talked about this. Carlton is, I mean, as we can see, has been kind of a dumpster fire at times this season, or most of this season, considering they have just not panned out the way they wanted. So, as a way to kind of see if they could pinpoint the issues specifically, the um, the board has decided to have a review of the club. Unfortunately, there have been some discrepancies on what type of review this is. Sometimes they bring in an out of club company to go through, interview people, have discussions, and then they report to the board what their findings were. This person needs to stay, this person maybe needs to go, here's where you need to get better at, so on and so forth. Well, then there were talks that it was going to be an internal review, meaning it was going to be the board reviewing. Now, this review is also supposed to be about the football department, which is everything on the field or in and around the field, meaning list management, coaching staff, players, so on and so forth. So the only thing that's really weird is that the president, though he is retiring after this year, said that he has said Teague's job, their head coach, is not up, that he is in no way a candidate for being sacked.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that kind of contradicts a little bit because if it's a football department, the head coach is part of the football department. So I'm not seeing where the front office decisions of list management, finances, and coaching retentions, coaching, and the
Mm-hmm.
players cannot involve the head coach. So it's a really, really weird kind of thing right now. I'm really still not sure if this is going to be an internal or external review. And unfortunately, Lagudiche has also done the dreaded kiss of. Some people have said the dreaded kiss of death of, we will see Coach Teague back next year. Well, unfortunately,
He
this has
gone.
happened several times in the last few years, and that coach has then found himself on the unemployment line. So we will definitely have to see about that. That's so the old rivals of Collingwood and Carlton are almost competing to see who can keep their name on the front page of many of the footy newspapers because they have just been going crazy with not only on the field issues but now off the field
Mm-hmm.
ones as well.
At least good news for you, Carlton fans. You got Harry Mackay back. He signs a 2-year extension with the club. And while it's not that 4 years that a lot of people are looking for and hoping for, It certainly is better than him ending up with the Bombers. So you're going to kind of take what you can get in this situation. Still kind of can't put all your money into him at this point. Still a couple other people that you would like to sign and bring back. This might be delaying the inevitable, or it just might be buying time until you could sign him to that longer contract.
And plus, this now they can fully focus on signing Sam Walsh because that really is the only superstar that really is left uncontracted. But he doesn't come out of contract until next season. But this is a great signing for Carlton because you at least lock up the big forward who is getting a lot of attention from not only Victorian clubs but several interstate clubs as well, looking for that marquee forward to be able to slot into their roster. So a good signing by Carlton. Now all of their focus should be on getting Sam Walsh's name to on pen and paid to from pen to paper.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Carlton, things might be looking up, not for this season, but at least maybe a little bit in your future. But Donnie, how about you take it away now and you give us your team of the round? Let's crunch those numbers.
Oh, oh man, this was another fun round to go through because you had a lot of really good performances by some players that I was really happy to see. So let's jump
Mm-hmm.
into a team of the round 13. Let's start with our defender, Sydney's Jake Lloyd. 30 disposals, 8 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 9 score involvements, 4 marks, and 446 meters gained by Mr. Lloyd. West Coast Shannon Hearn. 25 disposals, 10 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 5 score involvements, 10 marks, and 448 meters gained for the Eagles defender. Frio Dockers get Luke Ryan. 30 disposals, 5 intercept possessions, 2 score involvements, 10 marks, 508 meters gained for the Fremantle Dockers defender. He's back again. North's Aaron Hall, 35 disposals, a behind, 6 intercept possessions, 6 score involvements, 6 marks, 4 tackles, and 791 meters gained for the all purpose defender from the Roos. Hawthorn's CJ Jath. This guy was everywhere in the game against Sydney. 28 disposals, 10 intercept possessions, 3 score involvements, 4 marks, and 553 meters gained for the defender from the Hawks. Rounding out the defenders would be Collingwood's Brandon Maynard. 32 disposals, 9 intercept possessions, 5 score involvements, 13 marks, and 661 meters gained for the defender that helped them knock off the D's. To the midfield, he's back again. Mr. Dusty Martin, 23 disposals, 2 goals, 6 score involvements, 2 marks, 6 clearances, and 571 meters gained for Dusty. Hawthorn's Tom Mitchell, a great game for the Hawks. 34 disposals, a goal, 6 intercept possessions, 3 score involvements, 2 marks, 7 tackles, 3 clearances, and 405 meters gained for the former Swan, now Hawk. Frio's Andrew Brayshaw, 29 disposals, a behind, a goal assist, 6 score involvements, 9 marks, 6 clearances, 5 tackles, and 435 meters gained for the young Frio midfielder. GWS's Josh Kelly, 39 disposals, 2 goals, a behind, 6 intercept possessions, 12 score involvements, 5 marks, 5 clearances, 6 tackles, and 654 meters gained for the fleet-footed midfielder from the Giants. Rounding out the midfield is Collingwood's Scott Pendlebury. 31 disposals, a goal, 12 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 7 score involvements, 2 marks, and 275 meters gained for the fleet-footed midfielder from the Collingwood Magpies. In the ruck is West Coast Nick Natanui. 20 disposals, a goal, a behind, a goal assist, 7 score involvements, 3 marks, 5 clearances, and 31 hitouts for the big ruckman from the West Coast Eagles. Now, there's something, we'll go to the forwards here, but I'm going to laugh at this one a little bit. One game produced 4 players from the forward market, and I think you're going to know these guys really quickly. Port Adelaide's Connor Rosie, 16 disposals, 5 goals, a behind, 2 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 8 score involvements, 3 marks, 410 meters gained for the forward from the Port Adelaide Power. Geelong's Jeremy Cameron, 19 disposals, 5 goals, 4 intercept possessions, 2 goal assists, 12 score involvements, 5 marks, and 405 meters gained for the newest Geelong Cat. West Coast Josh Kennedy, you kick a game-winning goal, most likely you're going to find yourself on my team of the week. 15 disposals, 4 goals, 3 goal assists, 8 score involvements, 7 marks, 448 meters gained for the game-winning kicker that is Josh Kennedy. Collingwood's Darcy Cameron, 9 disposals, 4 goals, 2 intercept possessions, 6 score involvements, 6 marks, and 5 tackles for the tall forward that I think is really the one keeping Mason Cox out of the Collingwood lineup. Port Adelaide's Charlie Dixon, 12 disposals, 4 goals, a behind, 7 score involvements, and 6 marks for him. And rounding out the forwards, yes it is, Geelong's Tom Hawkins, 14 disposals, 4 goals, 4 behinds, 2 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 11 score involvements, 8 marks, and 244 meters gained for Mr. Hawkins. Let's jump to the bench. Our ruckman bench player will be Sean Darcy, the ruckman from the Freo Docker, 17 disposals, a goal, a behind, 4 intercept possessions, 7 score involvements, 5 marks, 40 hitouts, and 411 meters gained for the big ruckman from the Dockers. Richmond, our defender, Richmond's Basher Hooley, 26 disposals, 4 intercept possessions, 3 score involvements, 15 marks, and 500 meters gained for the defender from the Tigers. Our midfielder on the bench will be Melbourne's Christian Petrarca, 27 disposals, a goal, 2 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 5 score involvements, 8 marks, and 486 meters gained. And our forward, rounding it out, I said it earlier, Josh Kennedy kicks a game-winning goal, so my forward has to be another game-winning goal kicker. That'd be Adelaide's Riley Thilthorpe.
Yes, sir.
3 goals, 4 intercept possessions, 6 score involvements, 2 marks, and 318 meters gained for the rookie from South Australia. And that rounds out my team of the week. Man, was that fun, considering that last game ended and I had to try to get that entire team put together. That was a lot of fun.
Don't you just love, at least our time, don't you just love these Sunday night games, Donnie? Isn't just a blast.
Oh, they throw a whole degree of difficulty. But actually, the one thing was the forwards were relatively easy because you had 4 of the people in that first game.
Who else were you going to put in anyway, man?
Well, and that was kind of the thing. As I was going through it, I'm like, well, there's 4 spots of the 6 kind of wrapped up in the first game.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, well, somebody's going to have to really perform well to knock one of these 4 out, because considering 5-4, 5-4, I mean, it was really difficult. So, but I mean, when Josh Kennedy kicks 4 and kicks the game winner, it's hard not to put him in. Darcy Cameron kicks 4 and helps Collingwood beat. So that was the only reason why Riley Thilthorpe didn't get in the regular team of the week, was just because you either had game winners or you had 4-goal or 5-goal game kickers. So it was really, really hard to get Riley in there. But I got him in on the bench. So
that's good stuff, because he definitely deserved that. But going for the team of the round, let's roll on into our week. Or, sorry, not week, excuse me very much. That's like calling umpire ref. Man, what am I even doing? Round 14 tipping. Let's get, or power rankings, excuse me. Let's get into it. Another week, and then another top 5 where Don and I have the same teams here. Once again, it seems like for the last 5 rounds or whatever have it, at least last round we didn't have the same teams. At least not the same 5. We had the same 4. But there's always something with us where we have the same idea, but just we disagree on where some of these teams belong to be in that top 5. Here we go. But at least both of us, Geelong is now the top team in the AFL, and there's almost no doubt about it, just because they're really the only one out of this top 3 for us that have won the game and have actually played the game. So there's some 2 qualifying things for you right there. One thing that's a little different for me, though, is Donnie still has the Bulldogs at number 2, while I had them in the same spot from the last round at number 4.
For me, it's just kind of one of those where I moved the doggies up just because Brisbane and Melbourne have had losses recently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I really wanted to see this doggies Geelong game. I think is going to be massive this week because it really is going to throw out the power ranking, especially.
It's going to determine everything. Man.
Exactly, and this was just kind of really interesting. Just a really interesting one to put together because I don't know, I didn't want to really downgrade Melbourne too much because this was, but this is a loss to Collingwood. Like, I mean, I can't keep them at 2 because that's kind of a bad loss. I mean,
Exactly.
again, there's emotion there, so there's a few things. So that's why I moved them to 3. Brisbane, I just something about the way that they lost to Melbourne kind of has me a little concerned a little bit, but we'll definitely have to. Bye week doesn't help. I really can't move them up, so kind of one of those were there. And then I put in a number 5. I'm interested to see who did you have at 5.
Number 5, West Coast. So we had, and it was kind of hard getting a legit top like 5th team because you can make the argument for a few of them. If you look at the ladder, it's kind of hard to see. But West Coast, they're only on the 2-game win streak now, but got a solid win over Carlton. They handled them. Then they also now just beat Richmond, who is always a good team. So I like West Coast there, and they're riding a bit of a hot streak, and like they're heating up as a team. They've gotten hotter. I will not say anything about them going to the next round because I really don't know. I don't know what kind of track record we're going to have with them. For me, I had the Western Bulldogs at 4. So like I said, I still have Brisbane at 2, same spot from last round because there's something about them that I still have a lot of confidence in this team. And I did drop Melbourne down to 3 just because it's Collingwood. I know you can make the argument that, hey, they're really playing hard for Nathan Buckley, but at the same time, it's the same team that has been here all season long. So, if you're Melbourne and if you are trying to make a statement that you are the premiership favorites, you don't lose to Collingwood. I think it's really just that simple. But we'd love to see what you guys have to say about this, whether you leave a YouTube comment, 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts, or hit us up on our socials. Is because, I mean, I don't even have to tell you to leave a comment because if you want your opinion felt, you are going to let us know what your opinion are. And I say that kind of sarcastically, but I do really appreciate that. And of course, you can always get a head start on a little sneak peek on what our power rankings are as we drop those every Tuesday evening American time. Yes, morning to afternoon time, Australian time, and then you'll be able to hear our explanations once we drop the show the next day. But Donnie, let's cap things off. Let's roll into round 14, and let's try to go even. Well, let's 2 games. I am fingers crossed that I get 2 out of 5 games right this week. I guess we'll see. It's going to be a tough one, and I guess the toughest game of the round is going to be the very first one between Geelong and the Western Bulldogs at GMHBA Stadium in Victoria.
This one's a really interesting one for me because if I hear correctly, this game will be played at GMHBA. It's not going to be outside of Victoria, but there will be no fans. It sounds like the AFL has made the call that there will be no fans, which is a tiny bit surprising considering Geelong is country Victoria, and there haven't been any cases in country Victoria for a long time. All of the cases in Victoria have been in Melbourne, so it's very interesting. Now, again, you'd have Melbourne fans of the Western Bulldogs coming down, so I think that's kind of the reason why it is rather odd. I'm going to go with the Cats in this one. The Cats play GMHBA really well. I don't think this is going to be one of those games that's going to be super dominated by the Rucks. I think Jordan Sweet and Tim English will be playing be the Rucks for Western Bulldogs. Blitz Thompson, Radicalia, I think are going to continue because Geelong keeps winning with that pair. So I think they're going to keep rolling with that. the Western Bulldogs back line showed some fragility a little bit to really strong, really good forwards, and
Mm-hmm.
Lynch kind of lit them up a little bit. Hawkins, Cameron, and Rowan are going to give them trouble. I think the Bulldogs have some issues unless they can get their midfield to dominate the footy to where there's no supply.
Mm-hmm.
The handball game is going to be very interesting on that skinny ground
Yeah.
because it may help Western move the ball up further, but it may actually be a helper for Geelong to keep them from getting out wide, unlike Marvel Stadium that's very big.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go with the Cats on this one, just because I think if you match up the Cats defense against the Doggies defense, Doggies forwards, I think the Cats are good enough defensively that I think they can kind of shut down Bruce and Naughton. I don't know if the Doggies have the defense to be able to shut down um, Hawkins, Cameron, Rowan, and company. And with Dangerfield having another week into his legs, I think
Mm-hmm.
him and Bontempelli is going to be a match of titans. The biggest question will be is, does O'Connor take Liberatore or Bontempelli and try to shut them down? Because if they can shut one of those two down, you can really hinder the Bulldogs' run and gun offense. So I'm going to go with the Cats on this one.
I think at the end of the day, I'm going to roll with the Cats here. I'm going to roll with the home team. Even without fans, I still like them if they're grounds. And at the end of it, I'm going who I trust more. I trust what I've seen from Geelong, and I believe Geelong is a little more of a consistent team compared to the Western Bulldogs. And that's not a knock on the Bulldogs. That just is speaking a little more highly of the Cats. I'm going to tip the Cats, but I really would not be surprised, like with really any game, if it goes the other way. There's my one kind of saving grace here is that there's my asterisk for you guys. I'm gonna say this team, but if with every team I pick, I'm like, oh, but I wouldn't really be surprised if this team wins. So I'm always kind of right when I'm wrong. It's whatever. The next,
Hit the fence on that one, sir.
um, I
That one's
might have gotten a little snagged at the top there, Donnie. It's all good though. Man. But next game, let's roll on over to the Metricon. We had the Gold Coast Suns and the Port Adelaide Power, and I am going to tip Port Adelaide, but a large chunk of me really wants to chip Gold Coast as the presumable underdogs in this one.
Yeah, this is really one of those that would be quite interesting. I like Port in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lysette should be back in this one.
Mm.
So I think the Rock battle, I think having an experienced Rock back in it, he's going to be just absolutely ready to go for this one. I don't think Gold Coast has the defensive ability to be able to stop Rosie and Dixon and some of their forwards. So I think this could be a really good kind of stabilizer for Port after kind of a debilitating home loss to
Mm-hmm.
the Cats. So I'm going to go with Port on this one.
That's I think man, I really want to go for the underdog here. Wouldn't that be a lot of fun? And also, I kind of hope Gold Coast wins because they would prove me right, and so it's always nice to be proven at least a little bit right. North Melbourne riding a hotter streak than they have been through most of the season with their draw. They go on into Bloodstone in Tasmania, and they're facing with a tough team in the Brisbane Lions. And unless something crazy happens once again, I'm gonna have to give it to Brisbane.
I'm going to go Brisbane on this one. I think North kind of got lucky. I think they got a GWS team that kind of overlooked them a little bit. North plays Tassie really, really well. This is Tassie as well. This is a Bloodstone arena, which they do play
Mm-hmm.
well as well. But I just think Brisbane's horses up front are going to be absolute nightmare matchups for them. And Harris Andrews, I think, can be that intercept marker that I don't think GWS really had this last week. I'm going to
Mm.
go with the Lions in this one, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, but this one could be big.
Wouldn't that be a lot of fun? Or also wouldn't it be a lot of fun if somehow North Melbourne actually gets the win here. Guess we'll just have to see very soon. In time for the Giants, you need to bounce back and bounce back heavy from your draw against the Roos, and at least Carlton's going to be that team that might serve as a launching pad for that, because you're going home, you're going to Giants Stadium, and you're going to be taking on a Carlton team that's been, obviously, we all know that at this point, they've had a very disappointing season. I like GWS in this one, but not by a whole lot.
I like GWS in this one, plain and simply because Carlton's defense has not shown anywhere close to the ability to be able to shut people down. Toby Green will have had a week into his legs. I think he'll kind of get back into it. Finlayson and Toby Green, I think, have field days, and I think GWS wins this one relatively handily. I do not trust Carlton at this present point at all. Their defense just gives up way too many opportunities. I think this could be a really good game to get GWS back on track.
Fingers crossed, because oh boy, I really need that at this point. I need like a little palate cleanser after what happened in round 13. I just need to see a win. I don't even need a good win. I just need a win. The last game of the round is going to be. This is actually kind of funny. Going back to our preview show, Donnie, this is going to be a battle of our predictions for the wooden spoon winner for this year. I had the Hawthorn Hawks. You had the Essendon Bombers. So I guess we're going to see who might be at least a little bit more right on this one or a little bit more wrong. But I really like the Bombers. I know Essendon's running a little bit of a high over Sydney. Sydney got just absolutely outplayed. I mean, we always know that those teams always play each other close. But man, I'm in love with this Bombers team. I think they have a lot going for them. They the last time they were on the field, they had a really competitive game against Richmond and got close in times to beating them. So I like to see what these Bombers can do, and I got them this round.
This is one of those where I looked at it a couple of times, and just initially, if you just look at it real quickly, you're like, Bombers should win this one easily. Don't sleep on the Hawks. I'm gonna.
Thank you. Let me clarify myself real quick, because I don't want that commenter again on YouTube. I don't hate this Hawks team. I'm not trying to like say that it's going to be a blowout. It's not. I think this is going to be a very competitive game. Hell, Donnie, I might even go as far as say, even with some of the competition here, given the level that both these teams on. This is we've seen what Hawthorn is able to do to Sydney, what they did to Adelaide, that fantastic game in Tasmania. We've seen the bright side of Essendon. This really could be one of the better matches of this round.
Well, and you also got to remember, this is a rematch from round one where Hawthorn came back and won it by 1 late after being down by over 30. So this is a very interesting matchup. This will be at the University of Tasmania Stadium. And Hawthorn tends to play Tassie really, really well. I think Bombers win this one because I think the Bombers are kind of going. They've had a bye week, so they're going to be nice and fresh. Hawthorn's coming off a game where they really didn't play the most difficult of opponents. I think, again, Sydney looked tired. They didn't play well at all. I think the Bombers come out I think they just come out full guns a-blazing in this one, just because I think the sting of that first round loss, I think is going to be playing in the back of their minds. I think this is one of those, the Bombers win this one, but it could be like, I know it's really weird saying 11th versus 17th on the ladder could be game of the round, but this one potentially, after the Bulldogs Cats game, this one potentially could be game of the round, because I think this one's going to be competitive. It's going to be tough. I think the Bombers edge it late. I think the Bombers get a little bit of payback, win this one by less than a goal late in the game, but this could be an absolute barn burner. I cannot wait for that game. Again, really weird when you got a team in 17th and 11th playing in a game, but I think this one could be really, really good. I'm going to tip the Bombers on this one, but the Hawks are going to be super competitive. I think Clarko may have found something with the combination that he played against Sydney, and I think he's going to try to repeat history against Essendon in this game.
Really excited about that one. 5-game round, so enjoy the footy, because we don't got as much of it this round, but I'm sure it's still going to deliver because it's never missed. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking in with us to the end, and thank you for tuning in to another AFL breakdown. It's always a blast. And Donnie, how we typically end this, in one word or phrase, let me get your thoughts going into this big game between Geelong and the Western Bulldogs.
Oh, for just the Geelong and the Western Bulldogs, Titanic, because
Titanic.
this is a massive matchup here. This could really fluctuate the center of the ladder because Geelong
Mm-hmm.
can drag Western back to the pack a little bit. The Western Bulldogs back to the pack a little bit with a win. But if the Bulldogs win this one, you again still see this gap, a full game gap between
Mm-hmm.
first and second, and the rest of the top eight. So this is a titanic matchup here because this could really drag the ladder back together a little bit if Geelong finds a way to knock
Mm-hmm.
out the Doggies this weekend. And real quick, just before we end this episode, to any of you Australian fans, if you have the shot, I tweeted out to an Australian who I know
Yes.
is a footy fan, and that is Bronson Reed of NXT. If any of you can retweet that tweet, I want to see if we can get him on the podcast. He is a massive Port Adelaide fan. I saw one of his tweets where he was wearing the prison bar jumpers. I would love to be able to talk footy and talk wrestling with him. Both Ross and I are massive wrestling fans.
Oh yeah.
So if he that
Oh yeah.
tweet can retweet it for us, we would absolutely love to see if we could get the big man on our podcast. But I wanted to get that out there real quick.
Hey, go do that. It's on my profile. It's on Donnie's at Coach Hess 40. Of course, everything's linked, and you can find us everywhere as long as you just go to thefourthandlong.com, or for all your footy stuff, thefourthandlong.com/AFL. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you, like I said, so much for sticking with us to the end. I hope you enjoyed the hell out of round 14, and I cannot wait to hear all of you guys, your comments on this video. Can't wait to read them all because you know I do. And I really cannot wait to get back to you next week.